Agency-wide, I would say that majority of folks that come in have some type of history of trauma. And with that comes the opportunity to talk about things that happened in their life, events that happened in their life. And sometimes people talk about wanting to commit suicide. Sometimes people talk about addiction, whether it be alcohol, eating, overeating, undereating, self-injury. And so suicide is certainly something that we find in the clinical practice here.
Mental illness is a brain disease, so it's no different than if you have a heart attack. Does your heart attack go away? Sure, but there's still the disease, that your heart is still affected. And so it's the same thing when it comes to working with mental illness, that we're talking about a brain disease, no different than we talk about diabetes or a heart attack. I would say it goes back to awareness. And so I think there's not growing data because, no different than we always say with sexual assault, we only know about 25% of reported sexual assaults. We don't know about all of the reported suicides. And so I think what's happening in our community is that it goes back to that awareness piece. Communities are talking, they're more aware that it's happening, and people are reaching out for help.
But I think that the majority of folks that we see that we're able to get into our doors come because they do want to have an opportunity. There's a little bit of hope that they still have. So some of the warning signs would be maybe giving things away, a change in usual behaviors, like you said, pulling away from activities that they usually did. With young kids or spouses, there's a sense of what do I do? Like, kids don't come with parenting manuals, especially for things like this. Spouses, we don't come with parenting or spousal manuals to say, like, how do we deal with this stuff? And so I think that it's working on having a conversation. So, hey, sweetie, I'm kind of noticing some changes, or what's going on? Sometimes it's like, no, I'm fine, or I don't want to talk about it, just leave me alone. And then there's the stuckness. What do I do with that? And so again, it could be at that moment to say, I think that we need to go get some help, and I'll go with you, or I'm just really noticing a change and I'm really worried about you. Are you having thoughts about hurting yourself? And that's usually the words. Are you having thoughts about hurting yourself? And then if they say yes, sometimes we ask questions like, do you want to die, or you just want the pain to go away? And oftentimes that's what we find is people say, I just want the pain to go away. I just don't want to feel like this anymore. But for us, it's so important that when that person's across from us, that we go into it saying, nothing's going to surprise us. It's okay to tell us whatever you need to say. And maybe because I've been doing it for so long, that there's things that I hear that I just say, okay, that's just another thing that I hear. But it's without judgment. And so what happens is when we start to feel something, like Beth Anne said, stories affect us. We're human beings. That's what our clinical supervision is about, is really trying to find a way to talk about what's happening in the situation so that, again, we could provide the best care for the people who come through our doors.